All right. So, hey, folks, welcome to night. Technically, I guess this would be night number two, video number three of our simulated blackout. It is me, Fred West, with the Solar Agents. We did an install for Mr. Sperling, Jeremy, there that you guys will see, and we've had fun over the last several days in this simulated blackout. At least that's what I call it. That's the word I use for it.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
plus one on that.
yeah, yeah. So we've had a lot of fun with it, and I don't think we've had really any surprises. And I mean, we'll talk about it, but we haven't really had any surprises with it. But we definitely have had some learnings, I would say, with it, and most of them really good. So what I was just getting ready to talk about, I'm a solar nerd guy, so we actually started this conversation already a little. But what I was just talking about is one of the things that we reviewed last night was this idea that okay, you would have a scene and you could be in that scene, and rather than have, I think you were going to have up to 16 scenes, something like
Mhm.
that. Okay, so rather than have 16 scenes, you can just go ahead and set a good base, and then you can individually turn things on and off. And one thing I noticed with Jeremy over the last 24 hours, other than he never allowed his battery to go below 38% today, even with a cloudy day, it didn't go below 38. Is that about right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic, man. Great job there. But I think a big reason for that is you were just shaving throughout the day. It looked like you're like, all right, well, for the next couple of hours, I need this. Let me go ahead and put this on. And all right, let me turn this off. Let's go ahead and do this. And so it looks like you got your drying done today and your dishes. I'll let you talk about what thought process went through. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And again, it's nice how simple and seamless it has been to, do those tweaking versus having to go to the breaker and flip it off, manually. And being able to see the instant change in my consumption whenever I do turn things off.
Right. Well,
So
why don't you bring your screen up real quick? Because all those settings that you did today, my bad, all those settings you did today actually show on that the history of it, what you cut on, what you cut off. So yeah, I probably that'll give you another reference there, so you can talk about it a little bit more.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So we went to a friend's house, like the whole family did, for a good portion of the day. Um, Left around 11 o'clock or 11:30 this morning, and so at that point, I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna turn off everything that is not the refrigerators, pretty much, um, and."
That explains a little. I was wondering why that. I saw. Yeah. So scroll down a little bit. Go to your message center if you don't mind,
Mhm.
and then we'll be able to actually see what you're talking about. There we go. That message center. Yeah. View all. And so yeah, go ahead. Because yeah, it's down
So
there. You said around noon or so. So I did see some things that are happening around noon.
yeah, yeah. And then I can talk about what's happened. So let's see.
So yeah, that 11:37, I guess, is where you're talking about. You were starting to cut. I
Yep,
saw the
yep.
furnace go off. I was wondering why that furnace went off. That makes a lot more sense now. So I'm like, man, what is he just having the kids suffer upstairs or what? What the heck is that? But go
Nope.
ahead.
I was like, hey, we're all leaving, so I'm gonna really, go down to bare bones. And I knew it was gonna be a cloudy day today, and so we were going to get minimal PV. And so I was taking us being out of the house as a good chance to conserve as much battery as I could. And then whenever it was sunny, since the house was pulling a very small amount, it was able to power the house and recharge the batteries. I think I got up to 67 or close to 70% today.
Yeah, I mean, almost 28% on a cloudy day to not only have enough power for your house, but also add an additional 28%. And it was just awesome. Yeah, I was like, man, he's making an effort, which is great. We love to see that, right? That you're making every effort to use what you have there, even though you knew the generator test was happening.
Yep.
You just want to set yourself up to see, okay, well, what type of difference does this make if I don't actually want to use the generator?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, for sure. It was really cool. And then like whenever we were getting back on the road, it was about, an hour drive to
Yep.
get back home. I started turning some things on, like, turn the furnace back on upstairs and stuff like that. Like, let's get the house back into fully working condition, so no one even realizes that I, saved electricity while we were away. And so that's pretty much what this last hour ago was. Um, so it's been amazing. Like it works exactly how I was hoping and expecting it to work.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. Sometimes when you when you make the decision and you move forward with the project, you're like, all right, well, that's ideal. And so is it going to be just like it was described by, Fred or whoever the designer was? And no, this is it. And what's nice is with the profiles we're making tonight, with the scenes we're making tonight, you will be able to set up a scene that's just like this, and you can set a timer on it to say, okay, my normal scene, everybody's home, but we're gonna be gone for 4 hours, and you can put the timer on for 4 hours and automatically cut them back on.
Nice.
You can also individually cut them on and off, just like you have been, just in case you want to do it that way. Uh, I would imagine, like in the with the grid down scenes, you're probably maybe get up to 5 just because you have this manual control. But I actually see you probably making 5, 6, 7, 8 of the other ones only because that'll be what you have the strong majority of the time. And I'm really this also moves towards ROI too, right? I mean,
Yep.
technically, this is something that you enjoy, and this is something that like it doesn't overwhelm you. You save a little bit, you shave here, you shave there throughout the day. Hey, everybody's gone. Hey, we're on vacation for the weekend. Like there's all kinds of things that you're going to be able to do now to where it literally reduces your consumption long term too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And yeah, I will say you said haven't really had any surprises, that statement that you made at the beginning of the video, and I would disagree with that statement.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Um,
Well, hey, I'm okay with that. Go ahead.
but the good thing is it was definitely in a positive way.
Okay.
So yesterday, whenever I was looking at how much charge I had left in the batteries, and I knew today was going to be a cloudy day, I was kind of like, oh man, we may get to the point where we hit minimum battery charge and, either the generator come on or, figure out some other way to make sure that we uh, don't get into a not great, power situation as part of the test. I didn't want to like abort the test or anything. And so I was a little concerned about, not having enough juice, but I was pleasantly surprised that I like the system was able to completely power the house the way that we wanted. And then with the ease of turning things off whenever we were out of the house today, um, made it to where we, are 60% charged still, going into the night. And then tomorrow is supposed to be a nice sunny day. So I really have no concerns with being able to fully power the house. And, what I just described is a perfect example and analogous to what could happen in a real situation where we're powering things. And I look at the forecast and I see it's going to be bad weather, and so I can shut off some of the circuits that aren't very used, or ones that are like the game room or something, um, and have confidence that the charge that I have will help sustain the house until the next sunny day. So
Well, and what's interesting about your approach that you utilized with this, and this is something that I describe to people often when I suggest the Savant and it does get installed, but they don't really take full advantage of it. Your family, and I may be overstating, you let me know, but your family really wants it for nothing. In that, like for example, you knew an hour out that the furnace had to cut back on
yep,
because you want to make sure that when they got into the house, they weren't cold, right?
yep, yep,
You knew that, I mean, there were several things that are in here that you said, okay, I'm going to be there in an hour. We had 2 or 3 hours with this being down. We got full value of that being down. But by the time we get home, literally nobody's going to know the difference.
yep,
So to them, it is whether we're on grid or off grid, we have all the same things we did before. And it doesn't matter if it's a cloudy day or not. And,
yep,
and
exactly.
that's what this allows you to do. Go ahead.
Yep, yeah.
And it's
And
good. Sorry.
and like I even like played around with like, oh, let me get everything cut back on, and then I was like, oh well, we're a whole hour out, so I'll cut back off a few things, and because these don't need to like get anything into a good uh position, like the furnace, was one that needed to go on, but the other ones that I turned back on, I was like, I can cut them off for a while, and then I got them back on right before we got back home. So to be in the good, no one even notices we were down to minimal workload. So
And as far as feedback from everybody else in the house, again, I know the nerds really love this stuff. We've analyzed it for this to be on our third day now. We're gonna do another analysis tomorrow night. And I think we're probably going to finish up tomorrow night with all of our analyses. But any feedback from them? I mean, have they been surprised that it has gone as cleanly as it has? And you've been saying no. I mean, literally, we haven't touched the grid at all for over 24 hours now, and this is how we live.
there was like a comment that was like, "Oh, yeah, nice. We're still off grid." And my wife even made a comment like, "Oh, we're still at 60% right now." And I was like, "Yeah, whenever we were out of the house today, I, trimmed down to the things that only needed to be, running." And she was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." So,
Right, exactly. And then you did it remotely. She didn't even notice that you did it. And so
yep.
again, to her life, I mean, her life was exactly the same. Unless she had asked you, unless you had volunteered the information, she would have even known the difference anyway.
Yep. Yep.
That's awesome. All right.
I will make a comment that something nice that I've enjoyed seeing is so our battery the stacked units are in the garage, and so whenever my wife is going to work and comes home from work, she I taught her the different screens that it shows, the charge and everything, and so she'll look at it and she'll be like, oh, we're still at 80% or something. And so it's nice to see that one, she can see it really easily, and two, that she is buying in a little bit to monitoring it. And she's made several comments since we've gotten the system installed, so that's been enjoyable to see.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of like that setup, are we able to go do a tour real quick of the garage and see everything? See the Savant, the inverters and the batteries and stuff real quick.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm gonna probably need to drop off this call and then join from my phone.
Nope, sounds great. I'll sit tight. Let you go ahead, let you join back in. We'll do a quick tour, and then we'll come back and we'll do the other two things that are on our agenda for you, so that we make the most of the time we have.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. All right, so folks, while he's doing that, we had mentioned this last night as far as the setup he has, and we'll be able to see, really how this all stacks together and how it gets all put together. But each part of the system that we put together with him was very deliberate to his needs. I want to make sure that people don't believe that every single house needs the same amount of batteries, every single house needs the same type of inverters, every house needs the same type of circuits. No, what it was is when Jeremy and I went together, and we have a very thorough evaluation process. We call it Solar 101. Hey, this is how solar works. These are the opportunities. These are the limitations. These are your tax credits. Stuff like that, just so that people are really prepared for what solar can do for their home. But as we do that, we get feedback from everyone that says, well, this is the experience I'd like to have with solar. And as you guys can tell from the last two conversations we have, which we're going to have links at the bottom of this video. We're going to allow the chain to happen, whichever way, whatever video you end up in. But this is the experience he wanted. And what's great about the opportunity that we've had with doing this simulation and having this conversation with him is it sounds like every experience that he said he wanted to have, we were able to really able to deliver on. And so that's for us, it's really exciting because in life you don't always have those opportunities. You have folks that have expectations that exceed the limitations of the system, or one reason or another. We've been to a lot of homes because we're one of the only solar providers that help people with existing installations. We call them orphan systems. Basically, if for one reason or another, whether it's just an unresponsive initial installer, or the installer that used to do it has now gotten out of solar or gotten out of that manufacturer, or unfortunately you've had different people go out of business. Just you've had solar companies that just maybe they weren't in this for the long haul or couldn't stay in for the long haul. So we go to a lot of installs. I'm talking about previous companies, and one of the most common things that we hear when we have those opportunities is, well, this is what was promised and this is what was supposed to happen, and I'm upset because of this. And sometimes the reasons that we see that, sometimes you just say the poor communication on the part of the original designer and the original company. I mean, that happens. There's just poor communication on their part, and so the people weren't set up. Other times it was a deliberate poor communication. People were misrepresented what their systems had the ability to do, which is equally as bad, if not worse, than the former. Because the former is a bad thing, but to intentionally mislead, would be worse. And sometimes it's just poor implementation. We've had plenty of situations where we believe the system was capable of doing it, but because people didn't know their craft as much as they should have, when it came to installing it, the system had the opportunity to do it. Everything was communicated, very well from beginning to end. But what happened was, either in the design process and putting it together, or the installation process, there was a challenge there. Just those expectations weren't met. And so, it's great that we were professional enough, and generally we are. It's great that we were professional enough that Jeremy was able to set those expectations, and he's experiencing them now. This is the cool part of of what we do. So I'll give him a couple more minutes.
Can you
Your timing was perfect. You have no
actually
idea.
I've been here like a few minutes.
Oh,
And you were chatting, so I didn't want to interrupt your speech there. So
so and any misrepresentation there? You heard a little bit.
no,
Go ahead.
yeah, no, that you were spot on.
Yeah.
So if I switch here, we've got, if you can you see my screen?
We can. Yeah. Another thing is beautiful.
Yeah.
Of course, I know what it looks like. We were there. But yeah.
And so, yeah, you can see that the stacked units are at, the health is still at 100%, and then the state of charge is 64%. And like I was saying, today was a day that it was cloudy a good part of the day. And so we weren't able to get a ton of PV. So I'm super pumped that we're at 64% right now. So this is the inverters and the stacked, the HomeGrid stacks that each have 4 battery modules in them. And then I can go over to the Savant system, or actually maybe I should start with the original panel that we had set up that used to be here, and we moved things around a little bit so that we could route things through the Savant panel. And then here we go. Like, we've got everything. You see there's still some things turned off because of the scene that we're in, like the pool, or the front porch plugs. The theater room and game room are turned off. Yeah, like, not only is it super informative, it's super cool to look at this all the time. Like, I always keep track, either whenever I'm walking by here to look at the individual power modules, or just go in the app at any time, and it's like, oh well, the pool filter just turned on, like the pool filter pump just turned on, or it just turned off. And so it's really cool to be able to track everything. And then here we have the director that does the communication with the Savant, and it also,
right, the little UPS down there.
Yep. So
yeah, nice. Yes, I just that's such a cool added feature to this. I mean, I remember when you presented the problem, and I was like, oh no, it's easy, it gets fixed with this, and like for what it was like 40-50 bucks. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. Something like that.
It's so worth it. I mean, just because if I don't think we described in detail what it was, but basically it's like a surge protector that has a battery in it. And so even that 10 milliseconds it takes for that inverter to switch over from grid power to battery and solar, it totally removes any type of delay at all. It's like it was plugged in the whole time. That's why it's called an uninterrupted power supply. So, or uninterrupted power source, depends on who you talk to. But yeah, those UPSs are awesome.
Yep. Yeah. And like I stated in the first video, one of the reasons why I wanted those is because I thought that some of the power modules were not mapped to the circuit that we thought that they were. And really what it ended up being is which one was in the front versus which one was in the back on a few of the circuits or power modules. But while I was testing them, turning them off, and seeing which things turned off in the house, one time I accidentally cut off the director, and I was like, well,
all that work too, man. Like all that work you put in was gone, right?
Yep. Yeah. Actually, no, it saved it in the app. I had to, just come turn everything back on before I could reconnect and then sync it. That's the nice thing about, it saves a local copy on your device and then you sync it to the director. So that was really nice. And, I put a UPS on my router and modem as well, because I accidentally turned those off while I was trying to figure out, what circuits were. And so with those on, and I hooked up the cable boxes because oddly they, in the very small number of milliseconds that it takes to go to backup power, they recognize it and they reboot. And so getting the UPSs on those made it to where everything is completely seamless. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so I'll allow you to migrate back to your computer room. I'm talking a little bit about the Kohler generator and why we decided on that, just so that people are prepared for what we're going to go over there.
Sounds good. I'll be back in a second.
Everything looks as good as the day I left, man. It looks great.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So as Jeremy's getting back, again, we talk about, designing things based off of the conversations we had. Well, some other, one of the limitations of the inverters themselves was each one can only accept 12K as far as their input from the generator side. Because what's unique about Sol-Ark, if you guys, most people wouldn't be familiar with Sol-Ark, is it's an all-in-one inverter, which basically means that it serves as its own, production for the PV for the solar. It's its own, capture for the battery cabinet. Like there is no battery cabinet. It's attached inside the inverter itself, and then it also acts as its own generator hookup and its own automatic transfer switch. So it's called an all-in-one because all those things are in there. And so, when we put the two inverters in, said, okay, we've got a 12K max for both of these. And so we really wanted to find a generator that could satisfy both of them, so we can maximize two things. One, the amount of power where we can get to the home, because the idea of the generator is it is technically the third option. If you want to consider PV your first option, we want to run the house off of solar first, no battery, no anything, solar first. And then when solar is not sufficient, battery should supplement or take it over, like at night, like right now. And then once the battery reaches a certain level, then the generator takes over. And what we wanted was for the generator to be able to take over and not only serve the home, but also recharge those batteries. Because one of the worst things you could do with the generator is have the generator run indefinitely. Generators are not to run, made to run 24 hours. It will wear them out. They'll have complications. You'll have problems with lubrication. There's all kinds of reasons why they will not run or should not run for 24 hours. And so, the strategy we had was, all right, well, let's have that generator run in spurts. Let's let it run a couple hours. Let's let it power the house. Let's let it go ahead and charge the battery, and then it cut itself off. It's going to make it so that we save in maintenance costs. We're going to save in fuel costs. We're going to save in what we call noise pollution. So you're not going to hear that generator, running for 24 hours if you happen to be out of power for 24 hours. No, you're just going to hear it long enough to get you back where you want. And so what we're going to do now, I think I just saw Jeremy get back in.
Yep.
what we're going to do now is, Jeremy, go ahead and save your screen with the Sol-Ark app, and I'm going to explain kind of the difference with the integration between the Sol-Ark and the Savant now, so they know why we have to go into the Sol-Ark app to do the next thing that we're doing. So this is a distinction that I've made as far as the language I'm using when it comes to the difference between how these two systems cooperate with each other. So Sol-Ark will always override Savant. If Sol-Ark has a setting, Sol-Ark setting is going to override Savant setting, right? So, and by the way, all the information that comes to the Savant, as far as the production you're getting, or battery life, all that actually comes from the Sol-Ark as well. And so we actually, as we mentioned, we have two Sol-Arks together. We have a primary and a slave, and this is them working in conjunction with each other. So you see the flow of everything that's here. So what Savant can do, in addition to change the different modules for controlling circuits, which is something the Sol-Ark can't. So Sol-Ark settings will never interfere with that. But what Savant can do is change the mode. So as long as Sol-Ark is like, all right, I don't care how you use power, as long as we don't have a specific setting against it, Savant is able to say, all right, well, we're in eco mode now, which means we're going to use the battery, to offset our energy costs, which, because Jeremy lives in Texas and they don't do net metering, it is the best setting for him to optimize his ROI. So the eco mode with Savant, which we'll probably, go over a different time in more detail, but that eco mode is something that's controlled by Savant. Now, technically, the power out, right, when we lose grid, that is something that Sol-Ark tells Savant, hey, I no longer have grid. All right. And so Savant knows what to do with that information. It has all those profiles and other stuff. But where it gets a little bit more complicated is when it comes to how it treats the power sources. All right. So Savant now has its own inverter, which fantastic thing, just came out last year. We're learning more about it, so I'm not going to take anything away from it. But HomeGrid is a heated battery, and Sol-Ark has demonstrated time and time again it could do this. So we have not integrated the Savant offering into our offering yet, because we're still evaluating it. But a lot of the settings that are in Savant, as far as I want the generator to cut on, and when I want the generator to cut on, and when I want it to cut off, and like all those settings, if the Sol-Ark's settings are different, Savant will not utilize them. And so the only two times we really put people in a position where they have to go into these settings, because this is, Jeremy, I know you don't mind it, but you would say that this is more complicated than the Savant version, right?
Yes, especially whenever you get into the settings.
Right. And so the only time you would use this is, number one, where instead of doing a clean backup, where when we did Storm Watch, it wanted to use the PV to charge the batteries only and not the grid. If you want the grid to charge your batteries, there are certain settings you have to do inside of your Sol-Ark and say, all right, charge my batteries with the grid, because I know storm's coming in a couple of days, and maybe that's something we'll show later on. But the other time is when it comes to the generator, because the trigger for the generator cut on and the trigger for it to cut off are both found in here. So we're going to go over those settings real quick, and then we'll have Jeremy probably pick another profile that's going to help you consume power faster, so that we can actually have that generator cut on, if you don't mind. Because if tomorrow's a sunny day, that means we have to do it. We have to do it before the sun comes out tomorrow, preferably, or we just cut off the PV tomorrow. Either way.
Sure. Or we could just put it at a very high percentage where the generator cuts on, right?
Oh, you want to just do it? You mean you just want to go ahead and do that simulation right now, like live?
Yeah, I mean, we could.
Technically we could. What we'll do is we'll set it to a specific number for it to trigger on. That's going to be reasonable for us right now. And then we'll have a cutoff at a similar number, that it would maybe take 20, maybe 20 or 30 minutes to get there. And we'll be building the profiles during that time. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, let's do it. All right, so let's go ahead and go into our settings, right?
Mhm.
So yep, go to equipment. You know where this is. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and go to our battery settings first here.
Okay.
All right. And inside of our battery settings, now these settings are not going to be the same for everybody. Jeremy has 3 stacks. It contributes differently when it comes to his inverter. So we are maximizing that charge and discharge for his battery. So it's at 275, which is the maximum that's available with it. And his battery resistance, like don't get too caught up on that. What we're looking at is where it says generator charge. So generator start percentage. Right now we are 64%. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So I think if you were to go full on out in the house and maybe even turn on that dryer for us, I think we could probably get down to 62% pretty quickly. Would you agree?
Probably.
Okay, so let's go ahead and change that to 62. All right, and we're not going to worry about the amperage. Basically, we're telling it, hey, this is how many amps we want. We got it's a 26K Kohler, but because we are using natural gas, it only does 24K. 24K is 240 volts at 100 amps. So we have 100 amps right there, so that it represents the full capability of the generator itself. All right, so we are now at 62. Let's go ahead and save that. Beautiful. Okay. So now let's go ahead and go to the TOU. Yep, there it is. All right, so this is time of use. Now, there are other uses with this, which I think Jeremy and I are going to work with later on when it comes to, how he's able to fully utilize the utilities opportunity and stuff. We won't go over that, but basically for each individual time period, we can set certain conditions for what status it's supposed to be at. So for example, that first time period being 1, that represents 1 a.m. We're saying, all right, we don't want to use the battery any longer if it is below 15%. That's what it's set at right now. Okay. So if it went below 15%, or I should say, if it goes to 15%, it stops using the battery and starts using utility. The other thing that it does is when we have it at this 15%, let's say we said 1 at 15%, but you see that our next one's 5. And at 5, we want it to be at 25%. What it would do is it would actually charge from the 15 up to the 25% because it said my minimum for this is supposed to be 25%. So it would use the utility to charge that to 25%. So what we're going to do, just for simplicity, because I don't want to go over what hours we're in right now, and because we are off grid, you can't charge it with the grid anyway. Let's go ahead and change all these to 65, because if we're at 62 for our cutoff, as far as when the generator cuts on, that's only going to charge us up to 65. I think the generator could do 3% pretty quickly. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, yep, there's our 65s. And again, we can, you can figure specific time periods later on.
It would be like the 1700 hour if we want.
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, I think it would be later than that. What time is it where you're at?
It's 9 o'clock.
It's 9. And so actually that 21, wouldn't it be? Because that's 9 o'clock, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why I didn't want to do the math. But yeah,
that's true.
But we're good. But they're all at 65. Let's keep things simple. And then also the other thing that we have here is the charge. So you see at the top where it has all those time periods and all those charges are set. So what's going to happen is once the charging starts, it's going to go up to 65 and then it will cut off the generator automatically. All right, so let's go ahead and save that.
Go ahead and save it.
Yep, let's go ahead and save that.
Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and go to the Savant.
Going there. Share. Stop share. Share. Savant.
Oh, so good. We're at 63%. So we were actually above that 62. Let's go ahead and change your scene. Change it to the all.
Yeah. Here.
Yep.
Here.
And that will help us discharge faster. Yep. Activate. Okay, going back.
Okay.
All right. Now, one thing that we learned when we did this before is Savant will tell us 62. But what it means is 62.9. Remember because when we were doing the test here, 62 wasn't really 62. 62 was whatever was below 63. And we were seeing a delay. And we're like, all right, why are we getting delayed? 62 is where we set it. Well, Sol-Ark sees 62, anything less than 62, where Savant sees anything 62 being what's less than 63. So there is a 1% grace in between the two. And so even if that were to go to 62 in the middle of our conversation, which it didn't, which is great. If it had gone to 62, the reason why we wouldn't hear the generator right away is because it does have that delay. And the same thing happens when it charges as well, because it'll go up to 65, but then, the Sol-Ark wants to, it defines 65 differently. It'll define it as whatever is below 66. So we're going to leave these settings here. And while we're waiting for that generator cut on, which this will show us when that generator does cut on, let's go ahead and go down to our scenes and let's add some scenes for when we're back on grid. All right, so we got a little plus sign. That's it, my friend. All right. So we're not going to capture a scene. Okay. So what we're going to do is create a scene that activates with just the tap. Go to tap. Yeah, let's start with that one. Tap to run. All right. So energy. Yep. Click it. So let's go ahead and do same thing as we did. Let's do all on.
Okay.
Okay. So I think everything, correct me if I'm wrong, everything is on right now.
Should be.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go to save that. Now, when do we want to use that? Right. So what so we could put some type of trigger with it. Now, if you push plus, you're going to see some cool triggers for it. All right. So we can actually set it to where everything is on at a specific time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or relative to celestial time.
Correct.
Interesting.
We could say that it only happens in the winter. We could say that it happens only during certain months. We say certain times a week. So let's say, for example, all right, you have a new schedule for your younger guests of you can't play video games between this time and this time on school nights. You could literally cut off power to that room between those hours and you no longer have to worry about it.
Nice.
So you have complete control of this. Now, we don't want to put any limitations on this one, obviously, because this is all on. Okay. So let's go ahead and go to add. All right. Let's go to next.
Wait, why is it?
Oh, yeah. You schedule something on next. Go ahead and get rid of that. No, where it says time.
How do I take
I think once you touch that, you can't go back. So let's go ahead and go to see if we can go to the former on that. Okay, let's go to close. Let's go back down. Go to close. All right, let's go create it again. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, tap to run. That's the one. Yep, that's energy. That's great. Go to next. We don't want to have any trigger, so don't worry about it. Go to next. Okay, and what is our name that we want to put on this? Yep, all on's just fine. These are because you can set different rooms. And remember, this is a whole smart home system. We're not using it for that right now, but this is a whole smart home system. Lights, music, all kinds of things can come from these profiles, these scenes. So that's why you see game time, entertainment, movie night, going, whatever. So we don't have to worry about any of these. You're all on is what you want to use. But you can go ahead and go next this one as well.
Where's the next step?
Should be under that. Yeah, close that. Yeah, your X. I think you're in the way. Go ahead and go all the way to the bottom.
I'm not. All
right, go ahead and go to the top. I know that the next is supposed to be there. The
I'm going to hit enter.
Okay, let's do it. I like it. And yeah, there you are. There's your next. Okay. select a photo of what it means, because they are very visual. So it makes it so that you can see what it is without even having to read it.
I see that. Okay. So all on looks like this house that has everything on. Okay.
Okay. Now, here's what's interesting about this. So if Jess were to be given access to this, you could give her access to all of these scenes. So I have access to this because we're monitoring different things. If you wanted me to be able to see this, you say, yeah, share with all the users because I'm a user. Jess has the app. She'd be a user as well. However, if it is a private one only for you, you would not check that box. So it's up to you. I'm not going to be playing with your house either way. So it's up to you.
I'll check it.
Yep.
Let's remove it later.
Do you want voice control on it?
Sure. Which I did actually set up. Okay, so this is all on
while grid. So all on grid. Boom.
Okay.
That's it. Now, go to that little world there.
Okay.
That's how you activate it.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Okay. Let's go ahead and cancel that. Now, when we have multiple of these, you're going to get a little clock as well. So let's go ahead and do our next one real quick.
Okay. So I guess I should.
Well, I saw one that said gone already. Let's go ahead. What would you do if you were gone? If your system was, you guys did the same thing you did earlier today, what would you cut off while you were gone?
Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. We got it all.
Okay, go ahead and go to next. We don't want to schedule for this. So next. Now go ahead, go down. There's already a gone down there on that list. I saw it. There it is.
Yeah. What picture says gone?
I like that door one for gone. I wouldn't do it yet, but
Which door one?
or it could be that the lights are off of the house.
Yeah, I think it's that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. All right. So what other scenes? Can we do anything that's a schedule? Do you have a schedule for the kids?
I do. Yeah. It's funny whenever you were talking about creating the on-grid scenes, like I was thinking like, oh yeah, I could like have the kids' rooms get switched off, while they're at school. And I know sometime that the TV in their rooms gets left on and it goes into like an idle state, but it's still pulling, like 50 watts, or 100 watts. So turning off their circuits while they're at school should allow us to save a little bit of electricity.
All right. So let's go ahead and go to plus. Okay, and we want to tap to run. Okay, yep. And then go ahead and turn off their specific ones.
Okay. That. This, we're gonna have to create two different scenes because they go to school and get home at different times. So there's
Well, so let me ask you, is there an overlap time that they're in school?
yes.
Because if you create two different ones, you're not going to have two different ones playing at the same time.
Okay. Interesting.
So I would have whatever that overlap time is, and I'm assuming it's because one leaves for school an hour earlier and gets home from school an hour. Like is that what you're saying?
One goes an hour earlier, and then one gets done at the middle of the day, and then the other one gets done, at the around like 4 or 5. So,
So you could do two different ones to schedule one as an overlap, and the other one to give some relief after the middle of the day.
yeah.
Okay, so let's set the one where they're both at school.
Okay. So I need to go here. This one. And yeah. I've got those.
All right, wait. Add a schedule trigger this scene to start. So let's go. Yep, there you go.
At time is going to be 8 o'clock. In the morning.
And that's when both are at school.
Yes.
Okay. So we could, if you want to say all year, that's fine. Or if you only want this to happen during the school year.
Yeah.
So go ahead and turn off all year there.
I don't know when they are, like when the school year ends. Oh. So I'm going to keep it at all year for right now.
Sounds good. All right. So what days of the week? I'm assuming Monday through Friday on that one.
Yeah. Actually, let's just do this. Okay. Next. And is there an end time?
So you're going to set another profile. Go to add.
Okay.
You're going to set another profile. So what's going to happen is whatever profile you're using during that time. So let's say you're using all home. It will set that, and now we got to set a alternative profile to come back on when you want everything to come back on.
Okay.
So 8 a.m. weekdays, that's what's going to be on. Go ahead and go to next. We're going to need a custom name on this one. I doubt.
Cool.
Yeah, I doubt you're going to have anything that says kids are at school.
Right, school. Yeah. I'll go next. I'll do maybe this garage one, like we've taken them to school. Yeah. Okay.
See the little clock there?
Yeah.
So that means that one's on a timer.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. So you said that one of them gets home at a certain time. So let's go ahead and do the alternate profile for that one.
Okay. So the things that we are going to want off during that one is this and actually I'm gonna leave it. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it like this. If she gets home and wants to, go in the game room or something, I don't want to have because the game room is also attached to the spare bedroom, and so whenever we hit the school time, I have all three of the upstairs bedrooms go offline, which includes the game room and hall lights. But I'll just leave the child that's still at school's circuit off, and that be it for this mode. Okay, schedule. Let's do at time 12. 15, 12:15. Monday through Friday. And that, right?
That's it. Yep.
So I guess I'll pick.
You should tell us the toys. I was thinking the same
Yeah.
thing, and I'd make sure to tell her.
Yeah.
Yeah, we symbolize your home with a bunch of toys.
Yeah.
All right, so then we got another thing on our schedule. That is excellent. So now we want to bring him home.
Yep.
Take it away.
Yeah. So that's all back to all on.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Schedule. Time. I think it's like 3:30. Maybe it's 4:30. I'll double check that and update it as needed. Okay. And
And then everyone's home.
yeah. Oh. Did you say that you saw a front door one or?
I don't remember. I saw a door one, that one right there.
Sure. Okay.
That's it.
Yep.
All right. So then let's go ahead and do a everyone went to bed one.
Okay.
That'll be the last one we do tonight.
Okay. Everyone went to bed. Will be. Let's cut that one off. Let's cut that one off. think that is probably good. I think I'll leave the dryer on just in case. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I'm thinking if someone like turns the dryer on before they go to bed, to finish a load of clothes.
I think that makes sense because I mean, a dryer is only going to be on if a dryer's on. It doesn't stay on all night.
That's true. That's
It's
true.
not. Yeah, I mean, it's unless somebody does not manually turn it on, it will not be on.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So I think that's probably.
Now, would you not say the same thing's true of the dishwasher as well?
Yeah, that's true. And the disposal.
Well, okay, disposal, yes and no. The reason why I think the disposal is kind of a in between there is because I cannot imagine the disposal being on when people are actually in bed, unless.
Yeah, that's why I was saying keep it on.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean, maybe somebody does dishes in the middle of the night. You think? I mean, does it pull any power? Is there any circuit hooked up to that pulls power in the middle of the night?
Maybe. I'll just leave it off.
Okay, sounds good. And then the game room, you have that off as well.
Yeah, I believe so.
So that's up to you. That stops people from getting up in the middle of the night and accidentally having a PlayStation 5 controller fall on their hand.
Yeah, yeah. So, got that taken care of. Okay.
All right. Now you can schedule it or have it manual.
I think I'm gonna leave that one manual.
I think so too. Because I mean, there may be a time where you and Jess want to stay up a little bit later. You have friends over and you're watching a movie, and you would hate
Yeah.
for that to happen. So I believe there's a bed. There it is. Yep.
Bed. A bed with a bed. Okay. Got it. All right.
Excellent. All right. Well, there you go. I have been looking at the Savant, and I've been looking at the Sol-Ark we're right at. So that says 61, but if you look at the Sol-Ark,
Yep.
I believe it's going to say that it's still at 62. This is where you have your differences between the two. So
It's funny. This is a perfect time. Like I'll show you. I'll pull it up. I've got it pulled up. So if I do this and I say stop sharing, and then I say share, and I say share this.
no, it says 61.5.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It says 61.5. And was it 61? Did we put it at, or was it 62?
Let's take a look. I could have sworn it was 62.
Oh, generator is powering on. I just got a notification.
There it is. There it is.
And look, it's because the main inverter went to 62%. So the alternative one.
That's what. Okay. Yep. It has to be that. Yep. So generator just cut on. You got the Savant notice.
I did get the Savant notice, and now I've got a generator icon in the Sol-Ark app.
Excellent. All right. So we said that we wanted to go up to 65. Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. So right now your generator, I'm looking at your. Well, if you want to jump over to your Savant app real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And all your neighbors are going, "Hey, why does the generator cut on in the middle of the night?" So you're gonna have some explaining to do here.
Hey, it's a test that I was doing, so.
Yeah, no, but the generator is great. I mean, look at that. I mean, you're 4.9. It's really, really good for right now. The house is only. Oh, so let's go ahead and go in a lower profile for the house.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need it all on right now. This is just, that was to take away as much power as possible. So yeah, I would say
That's second stage.
second stage. Yeah, let's be as lean as we can, but people still get to, experience what they want to experience. We were at 1.1. All right, there we go. It reduced it a little bit. Oh, no, it's going down a little bit more. All right. So we're going to allow the generator to charge you on, and then we'll see that generator cut off, I believe, at 65%. So mean, it's not bad to let it run for, like I said, about 20 minutes, a half hour anyway. Once this is done, now that you know that this is available, and you knew it was available before, but now that you have, full access to it, and you know what to change with it, where would you like this to cut on? Like what percentage?
Good question. Do you have a recommendation?
Well, so there are different settings that we're competing with the Sol-Ark, right? Because we want to maximize your battery, your setting, I believe, for the battery during normal operation is 15%. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say that we probably want the generator to be at 15% as well. And the reason is this. There is another setting that says cut battery off. And basically what that's saying is, hey, I no longer want to use the battery beyond this percentage. I believe the setting we have for you, we might as well go check it now. Let's go to Sol-Ark.
Yep.
I believe the setting that we have for you is 10%.
I think you're right.
So the reason why we want that 10% is because you never want a fully dead battery. Because you have a fully dead battery, it cannot power the control module, the BMS, enough to recognize where the battery is for just charge state and everything else. So we want to hit 15 because we want the battery to not kill itself if for some reason, let's say the generator, like there's no gas available. That's why you want it both anyway. There was a time where even with Beryl, I heard there were parts of Houston that was not able to get gas. Right. So we don't want, it to go past where the generator goes and say, all right, well, we're going to keep using that battery until dead. So there's your battery low. Battery shutdown is at 10. That is a great place for it to be. So I would say if you have that generator set, let's not change it now until we see it cut off or being charged. What do we have? The generator starts at 62. Let's go to your TOU again. Did we say 65 or 64?
I think we said 65.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm gonna look at the Savant real quick. You're still at 62 right now.
It's showing 63 for me.
See, that's the thing. Your Savant is showing 62 for me right now.
My Savant is showing 63.
It just switched over to 63. I am a little bit further away from it than you are.
So maybe I should quickly set it to 64.
That's what I'm thinking. Let's try to do it 64. Hopefully we still have that space. Yeah, because I don't want it to. There's no reason for it to stay on longer than it needs to. So yeah, let's set them all for 64. Okay. Boom. All right. And that is with the hope and the anticipation that we beat it. And once it gets, because it says still at 62.5.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we're not at 64 yet on either one of the readouts. Oh, no, actually, I just
there it is. Just hit it.
Off.
Just
hit. Yeah, we just hit 64. So, so that's it.
Nice. That was smooth.
Yeah. No. And aren't you just glad? I feel like an attorney. It's like you don't want to ask a question you don't know the answer to. And so I'm like, all right, I know this works exactly like it does, but man, I'd hate for it to be on a video and not work.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, you're the one that suggested doing a live demo of that, and I was like, sure, let's do it.
So, but no, I think what I would normally set it at, if I was in a power mode like yours and we had the weather we had, I would set the generator to cut on at 15%, but I would definitely have it go maybe to 30, and realize when it goes to 30, you have profiles that cut on and off at 25, right? So it would actually go past that profile and it would cut the whole house on again. Because I think you have the bottom floor only cut on at like 25%.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So if you say 30 or 35, it will actually charge past 25%. Savant would notice that it's past 25%. Say, okay, let's cut the upstairs off. If you want, I would probably not go over 40. That would be that'd be where I would go, because that's going to give your generator a nice workout. You know, let's say if it's from 15 to 40, it's going to be on for maybe an hour or two, depending on how much power you're consuming. But it'll be on for an hour or two, which is a really good workout for the generator. And then your house, most likely, if you got up to 40%, you'd have to have some really bad weather to not have that be enough to get you to the next day.
Yep.
So, but
You
that
think
number's
I
up
should?
to you. I mean, you don't want anybody else to know. You can stop sharing if you like. Uh,
No, I'll keep it at 40 right now.
yeah.
Hmm.
Not 4. Yeah, definitely not 4. That would not last long. All right, so 40. Go to save. Boom. Now your generator's set up where you want it.
Yep.
All right. So, oh man, I'm so glad that went as well as I expected it to. I could barely tell you. Everything tightened up a little bit. Let me just say that. So, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss tonight? I mean, I think for tomorrow night, it'll be your basically your 3 days is up at that 7 a.m. the following day. All of our lessons learned, all the things we took from this, we'll discuss that, and you know, and really kind of close this out. But is there anything else that you think we should, you know, kind of rap about or talk about? I mean, I assume that seeing the generator work the way it's supposed to, even though we did a test while we were there, it's really cool to see it happen again while you're off grid, while you've been off grid for multiple days. And don't forget, you're going to change that back to 15 once your grid's back up for your TOU. Okay, so I want to point that out. Your TOU, once you get back there, we want to set that to 15 so that you're able to use 85% of your battery to reduce your bill.
And I will make a note in case anyone from Sol-Ark ends up watching this video. It would be great if there was the ability to have an on-grid battery state of charge that it keeps it at, and an off-grid setting, so that I could put, whenever I'm off-grid, I want it to, you know, go to 40% whenever the generator kicks on, you know, whenever it gets down to that 15%. But whenever I'm on grid, I want the battery. I want to utilize, you know, as much battery as I can. You know, I just don't want the charge sitting there without being able to utilize it. And so being able to have both of those values that I could set would be amazing.
Well, and kind of like creating scenes for Solar-Ark the same way you do Savant. Like if I
Yep.
have an off grid scene for Solar-Ark where I can say, hey, I'm off grid right now. All settings I want for off grid, I want to happen now.
Yep.
And if I'm on grid, I want this. Absolutely. And another thing would be, you know, where the other area that this becomes, I don't want to say an issue, but another way it becomes relevant is when it comes to having the grid charge the batteries. That was a concern of yours when we went, you know, in storm watch mode on Thursday night.
Yep.
It was like, well, Fred, you know, next day it's going to be cloudy and everything. I'm not sure if I'm going to get enough before Saturday morning. I want the grid to charge my battery stack. Be nice to be able to put a profile like that too and say, all right, hey, you know, if I don't do anything, I am clean backup where the grid, you know, the PV, the solar is the only one that charges my batteries. But hey, I'm going to have a cloudy day because the storm's already coming. I want the grid to do this. Let me go ahead and say, you know, grid charge for my battery. So no, I think that's a really good idea, Sol-Ark. So I think that's a really good idea. They will see this because this is something that I told them I would share with them as well. Because overall, man, there's nobody else who could do this anyway. That's the thing. Right now, the things that we're asking for, we're asking them to improve something that is already, and everywhere I've seen in solar, the best performing thing that's out there. So Solar.
Okay, great. Make it even that much better.
So Solar, I'm going to say this because, you know, I talk to you guys regularly. Jeremy doesn't care. Listen, you guys are the best thing out there that we've worked with to do all the things that we wanted to do. So this will make you better, get better. But please don't go backwards because I love being able to brag about you the way that I do. But anything else, Jeremy, you want to add? I mean, that's fair. Is there anything else you want to add, though?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
All right. So I guess now that you have your settings set where they are, you see how to do scenes for on grid, which I can't wait for you to be able to play with that and see what things that you come up with. Was there anything that you learned tonight that actually impressed you more then
Yeah.
you were already impressed by this.
Yeah, the tunability of the on-grid scenes was impressive. And I'm already imagining things that, I could, put in place to help get a better ROI. And so it's awesome that that tunability is there. And my mind is salivating with all the options and uh, aspects that I can tweak to try to get as much savings with my system as possible.
No, absolutely. And I have to admit, so we really didn't talk about this a couple months ago. I think I talked about, hey, you're gonna have opportunities with this, but I already knew you were salivating about getting permission to operate. If I told you this stuff was available too, and you had to wait for the utility to give you permission to start using it, you'd have gone daggone crazy. I mean, you're already on that edge
Yeah,
for
yeah.
for the month you were there. So I apologize I had to get to share all of it with you. But as soon as we got PTO, that's why we scheduled this to prioritize this. So no, listen, Jeremy, as always, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing so much about your system and what we saw here. Congratulations on your off-grid experience. Well, again, we'll close this out and talk about all the cool stuff throughout this time. But we're excited to be able to help you. We're excited that you're getting even more excited about something that we did for you.
Oh yeah. And yeah, thank you again for you know, from the start, initial design conversations through and all the iterations that we did, because I had quite a few that I had in mind. I wanted to go with different options and stuff like that, different configurations, and you gladly took my request and answered the questions, and then once we got it put together, the install happened as expected, and the final result is exceeding expectations. So it's awesome.
That's what we love to hear, man. So, all right, brother. Well, probably same bat time, same bat channel tomorrow night.
Yep.
All right, enjoy your setup, and know that if you wanted to have a comfortable night, you could have a comfortable night. The generator is going to back you up now. You're going to be okay. But if not, go ahead and get the most out of what you got, and we'll chat tomorrow night.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, buddy.